Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing fine, and I'm also fine, alhamdulillah. Today we're going to start chapter 3, and before we start, let's have a question. Just imagine a situation when you got fainted, may Allah forbid, you've got fainted, and the moment you've got your consciousness back, you find yourself under the water. How would you feel? Try to imagine, how would you feel? It's very simple. You would feel suffocating. You will have difficulty in taking your breaths. So the same situation, the same feelings were experienced by our character named Diggory. Because in the second chapter, in the last class we discussed that Diggory just put on the yellow ring, and then in the next chapter, chapter 3, Diggory found himself underwater. And what happens is, the moment he realized that he was underwater, he tried his best to scramble ashore. And then he got out of the pool. He realized that he was in a pool, and then he got out of the pool. And strangely, oddly enough, what happens is he found that there was no dripping of waters. No dripping of waters. And at the same time, his clothes were dry, and he was not panting. So this water in this place was totally different from ours. Because in our world, if you were underwater, you would have difficulty in breathing. You would pant, and your clothes would be wet, and at the same time, you would have drippings of water. So Diggory, he got out of the pool and he looked around and he found strange things, quite similar to our world, and there are some differences as well. And the writer describes the differences in a beautiful way. Just look at the screen. The narrator says, when Diggory looked around, it was the quietest wood you could possibly imagine. There were no birds, no insects, no animals, and no wind. Right? You could almost feel the trees growing. The pool he had got out of was not the only pool. There were dozens of others. A pool every few yards as far as his eyes could reach. So if I ask you how this wood is different from our wood or from our world, then what would you say? The description is very clear, right? No birds, no insects, no animals, and no wind. In our world, we have different kinds of birds, various types of insects, animals, and at the same time wind. Without these, this world is almost nothing. Similarly, in this place, you have a lot of pools, dozens of pools, hundreds of pools. In our world, we don't have such places, probably. So if you just try to imagine, maybe the place will be like this. Look at this image. Maybe the place will be like this. A lot of trees, green fields, and in between you have a lot of pools like that. So, Diggory, something strange happened to Diggory. He had forgotten about his past. He was trying to remember, but he couldn't. And from distance, he could see a girl. So he went to the girl, rushed to the girl, and they talked together. And it seemed that they had met somewhere in another place before, and they were trying to remember, but they couldn't. And all of a sudden, they found a guinea pig, a fat guinea pig with a yellow ring. Probably that can be kind of sort of imagination of what the guinea pig looked like. A guinea pig with yellow ring. When Diggory and that girl saw this guinea pig, this reminded Diggory and the girl almost everything. They remembered everything about their past, what happened with Uncle Andrew, and how they came into this place. So after this, after they remembered everything, what they did was, Polly decided to go back to our own world, this world, the earth. But Diggory had a wonderful idea. He said, if this pool represents our world, if through this pool we can go back to our world, then there are these other pools, a lot of pools are there, then probably each pool represents other worlds, another world. So there are a number of pools, and with each and every pool you can go to a different world. And Polly was a little bit confused. She was not interested in discovering new worlds. She says, I want to make sure that I will go back to my own world, and then after that, I want to discover or explore new worlds. So the writer kind of describes the nature of the boy's mind and the girls. The boys and girls, probably they're different from each other in their nature. How? Just look at the screen. But she was not, Polly was not interested in finding out things nobody had ever heard of before. For Degree was the sort of person who wants to know everything. Polly was not interested in discovering things that nobody had ever heard before, and Degree was the opposite. He wants to know everything. Do you think the writer wants to say that the boy or boys are adventurous, they are curious, they want to discover something new, they want to discover something unknown? On the other hand, the girls are not curious, they don't want to discover new things, and at the same time they are careful. Maybe, maybe not. I leave it up to you. So after this incident, after this, what should I say, negotiation, agreement, Degree and Polly, they came to a conclusion that, okay, we will go back to our own world, and at the same time, the moment we realize that we are coming back to our world, we will change the ring. We will change the ring and we will wear the new ring once again, and then we will come back to our own world. The wood. And according to Degree, this wood is not actually another world. According to Degree, Uncle Andrew was wrong. Uncle Andrew said that if you wear the yellow ring, you will go back to another world. But Degree is saying that this wood is not actually a world. This wood is a kind of station, an in-between place. And from this place, you can go to different worlds. It is not a world, but it is a place from which you can travel to different worlds. So now, Polly and Degree, they wore their green rings, they jumped into the pool, and they were going back to this world, the earth. The moment they saw the vague images, the shadowy figures of London and Uncle Andrew, they changed the ring. And then once again, they wore the yellow ring, they came back to the wood once again. So now Degree wants to discover new worlds. He and also Polly and Degree, they were wearing the yellow ring, and now they jumped into a new pool. And the moment they jumped into a new pool, guess what? Nothing happened. So the other pools, probably they are not the doors to a different world. Probably it's just a simple pool. But then the narrator, the person who is telling the story, he informed us about the rings, that Uncle Andrew was wrong about the rings and how the rings actually work. The narrator is actually now describing how the rings actually work. The narrator is saying, the stuff in the yellow rings had the power of drawing you into the wood. It was stuff that wanted to get back to its own place. But the stuff in the green rings was trying to get out of its own place, so that a green ring would take you out of the wood into a world. So the yellow rings, according to Uncle Andrew, the yellow rings' job was to take you to another world. But the narrator is saying that no, the yellow rings will actually take you to the wood. No, not a different world. Not a different world, but into the wood. And the green rings will not bring you to the earth. Rather, the green rings will take you out of the wood. And the moment you will jump into a pool, the green rings will take you into that world. But Degree and Polly, they didn't know this fact. So they wore yellow rings, the yellow rings, and they tried one pool and nothing happened. But the mind of the children is very curious. Now Degree and Polly wanted to see, if we wore the green rings, what would happen? If we wore the green rings, what would happen? So they wore the green rings, they took their hands together, and then Degree said 1, 2, 3, go! And they jumped. What happens? Did they go to a different world, or they're still standing in the pool? We don't know. We will discover the answers to this question in the next chapter. So in your homework, you have to compare. You will have a worksheet, and in that worksheet you will have questions like compare and contrast the wood between the worlds and our world. How are they different from each other, and what kind of similarities do they share at the same time? And you will have some vocabulary questions and fill in the blanks. And kindly read chapter 3 once again and read chapter 4 for the next class. That's all for today. Jazakumullahu khair.